Red wine is great for drinking, but it's also great for cooking. However, the question that always comes up is whether or not it's worth cooking with a higher quality wine or just the cheap stuff. So today, we're gonna settle this debate once and for all. What I have in front of me is the cheapest of the cheap, all the way up to a bottle that literally costs $1,000. And yes, we're gonna cook with it. In the name of science, it's time to finally find out if there's a noticeable difference and if it's worth it. So with that, let's get started. First things first, let's go get some wine. Okay, we have made it to the wine shop. So it's right before Christmas, and I'm not gonna lie, this place is absolutely packed right now. Back in the day, this was my go-to. This stuff is terrible. $40 grand? That costs more than me. Okay, so I found their cheapest bottle. This one goes for $3 in this store, but I've seen it for under $2 in other ones. It should work, and it's pretty close to our $1 goal.
Mascota is a producer. Moscato, the grape, is a different, totally different.
All right, great. I'll grab 2 of them then.
I love that one.
20 bucks. Here we go. Okay, it's time to find our $1,000 bottle of wine. I can't remember the last time I spent $1,000 on anything, so I'm pretty nervous right now. Okay, we have made it to the very expensive section of wine. Let's try to find one for $1,000. I'd love to look at the Bordeaux, like the 80% Cabernet ones.
Bordeaux, you have first growth, second growth, third growth, fourth growth.
So you would obviously never cook with this kind of wine.
Yeah.
$9.99, $97.
First growth.
First growth, raspberry, dark cherry, fig, full bodied. That's 100 out of 100.
Yeah.
I think that's the one, Sophia.
I think you're looking at it.
I'm looking at it. Yeah, that's the one I think.
Thank you, Peter.
So it's 5 years old.
5 years old.
That can sit until you're 90.
I think we're gonna drink it today.
Drink it today, but you can't. This is like the cream of the crop.
The cream of the crop!
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you. Happy holidays. If there's any way to give a positive message to Peter, he was excellent.
People are gonna be mad at me for this $1,000 bottle of wine.
It's for science.
Okay, really gonna do my best not to drop this, but let's get back to the kitchen. And we're off. The most money I've ever spent on a bottle of wine is like probably $30, so this should be very interesting. All right, and we have safely made it back to the kitchen. We have our super cheap bottle, our mid-range and very drinkable wine right here, and last but not least, our $1,000 bottle of wine. I still genuinely cannot believe there is $1,000 worth of liquid in this tiny bottle. This stuff better taste like magic. Okay, so first things first, we of course need to do a blind taste test to see if I can tell the difference between these. I used to drink boxed wine back in my day. I barely know how to pronounce all the names of the different wines. Please take all of this with a grain of salt. Okay, so first up, I'm going to open the $1,000 bottle of wine so we can let it breathe. I hope I do this right. Oh boy. This just feels wrong, everybody. Okay, I'm not gonna smell it, not gonna taste it yet, but we are gonna decant half of it. I am gonna save the other half, bring it home for the holidays, share it with my family. I think half should be more than enough for this experiment. This is literally $500 worth of liquid somehow. Watching my money slide down the drain. And next up we have our $1 bottle. I'm gonna say I'm way less nervous about this one. And of course our $20 bottle. What is going on with this thing? Now we're just gonna pour in our cheapest wine. Next up, the $20. And last but not least, the $1,000. This has been breathing for about 15 minutes. Probably like 50 bucks right there. So visually, I'd say no real difference between the $20 and the $1,000. However, the cheapest one definitely is a bit more light. With all our wines poured, it was time to taste. All right, guys, it is time to taste the wines. Now, if my beard and hair looks slightly different, it's not just you. I actually did this exact same taste test literally 3 weeks ago, and I got all of them wrong. If that's a $1,000 bottle of wine, then I completely give up on cooking for the rest of my life. Cheap, middle, expensive. I said the dollar was the most expensive. No! I was completely convinced that expensive wine was a scam, but I brought the expensive bottle to my friend. She's like a master wine drinker sommelier, and she actually let me know that that first bottle was actually corked, which basically means it just went bad. So I did some research, and there's literally a 5% chance that wines are corked. So I brought the bottle back to the wine store. They were nice enough to give me a brand new one. But either way, I have my taste test tie, and round 2, it's time to do this. Wine number 1. That did not taste very good. Wine number 2. That's gotta be it, guys. The first one is the tangy one. I think that's the $20 bottle. Let's see if this one like blows me away. Wine number 3. Let me try the first one again. At first I hated 1, and then I tasted it more times and it just felt more complex. The second and the third actually felt very drinkable, like the exact same thing. I'm gonna say that this is the expensive one. So I'm gonna say that this is the $1 one. Wow. We freaking got it, boys. The most important thing was getting this one right. But here's what I'll say. I definitely wasn't like, oh, this is like the best wine ever. Like this should be $1,000. Give me any of these in a restaurant, all 3, and I'll be equally happy. What I will say is that my very first impression of the expensive bottle was like, this is disgusting. But then the second and third after just didn't quite have as much depth to it. Let's move on to those sauces. So this here is a 60-day dry aged top sirloin. We're gonna cook 3 steaks and make a wine reduction to go with it and do another blind taste test. A good steak sauce, of course, needs a good steak, so I sliced open that top sirloin. And even though it's quite lean, the sirloin is really tender with great flavor. So as you can see, a relatively lean cut, but seems perfectly dry aged. And the smell definitely has a very distinct beefiness, more so than something like a ribeye, which has to do with this cut in particular. Now we're just gonna remove that outer pellicle. As with all dry aged steaks, don't skimp out on the trimming. We really don't want any of that pellicle remaining. And just like that, we have our 3 beautiful trimmed up steaks. Very, very gummy texture. It'll be interesting to see how they taste once we cook them up. We're gonna keep the seasoning simple with some kosher salt and some black pepper. And make sure to get both sides. Now we're just gonna let these dry brine for a bit. And for the sauce, we'll need some shallots. The sauce I'm making is a really simple red wine bordelaise. Because there's so few ingredients in the sauce, it feels like I'll really be able to tell if the quality of the wine makes a difference with the flavor. People say onions make your eyes tear, but I swear shallots are way worse. And just like that, we have everything we need for our simple red wine steak sauce. We have the wine, our beef broth, shallots, and butter. Let's cook those steaks. Cooking the sauce in the same pan as the steak is very important so we can retain the bits of flavor from the beef. So I started by searing each steak for the exact same amount of time. Now for the sauce, we're gonna add in some butter, our shallots, and we really wanna scrape off all those bits from the steak. And now we're gonna deglaze the pan with our $1,000 bottle of wine. This very well could be the first time and should probably be the last time anybody ever does this. This just feels wrong. Now we're just gonna let this reduce by about half. Sort of feel like we're just cooking out all of these incredible flavors, but we'll see. Now we're gonna add in our beef stock and let it continue reducing. So it's reduced to a point where it's just starting to coat the back of a spoon. We're just gonna finish it off with a bit of butter, smooth it out. We're just gonna work in that butter until it's nice and silky.
That's some expensive ass air right there.
And there we have our super premium red wine reduction. And now we're just gonna repeat the exact same process with the other 2 steaks. I want these sauces to be completely identical, so I kept the cook times and measurements exactly the same. Okay, and with our sauces complete, all that we need to do is slice up these steaks. One thing you'll notice here is that the consistency of the sauces are slightly different, but that's only due to the fact that the first 2 sauces had more time to cool down. By the time the taste test happened, they had all reached the exact same consistency. With that silky sauce poured over each steak, it was time for taste test round 2 to find out if cooking with a $1,000 bottle of wine is worth it. And just like that, it is time to give these a taste. Once again, got our tie here. All right, so the main goal here is to figure out if I can tell the difference between the 3 of them. Let's do this. Okay, Sophia, please grab a piece of one random one, give it a big dunk in the sauce. Steak number 1. Tastes like steak and sauce together. Let's go with number 2. My gut feeling is I like that one better, but pretty much the same. It's actually a really good sauce, like super simple. Tibby, your timing is impeccable. Okay, we're gonna try number 3. Tibby knows there's a taste test happening and he had to show up. Like my just gut reaction, because that's all I can do here, is the second was the best, the first was the second best, the third was the worst. Sauce number 1. Okay, number 2. Better than the first. First was my second favorite, third was my least favorite. That's so interesting. I was fully prepared for the wine not to make a difference, but apparently it does, because like the second one was definitely the best tasting. The interesting thing is, I could tell a bigger difference in the sauce than I could with tasting it. But I guess that means that the quality of your cooking wine actually does make a difference. Now in practicality, the $1,000 bottle is sort of out the window for most people, but the question is, should you cook with a very, very cheap bottle of wine? And at least for me, when it came to the sauce and actually the drinking, I actually preferred the $1 bottle the best. So I'm gonna continue cooking and drinking my $1 bottles, but do a little trial and error yourself, because at the end of the day, all these differences were so incredibly subtle. You might as well just save the 19 bucks and be happy with this guy right here. Thank you guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you're subscribed, like the video, it helps me out a lot, and I'll see you next time.